Before we begin, this episode of Data and Dissonance contains political commentary, opinion, satire, and discussion of current events involving war powers, Congress, the presidency, Iran, military action, constitutional authority, and the cost carried by American families when Washington refuses to be honest about what it is doing. This show is not anti-military. It is not anti-service member. And it is not a call to weaken America in front of the world. The men and women wearing the uniform deserve respect, clarity, lawful leadership, and a country that does not use them as political cover, while elected officials hide behind slogans, talking points, and cable news applause lines. We can support strength without worshiping war. We can support President Trump without pretending every decision made in Washington should be immune from questions. And we can demand accountability from Congress without sounding like weak-kneed surrender artists who think national defense is a dirty word. That is the lane tonight. Pro-America, pro-Constitution, pro-troops, and absolutely fed up with politicians who want the power of war without the responsibility of explaining it. The reporting and details discussed in this episode are based on publicly available news reports as of Wednesday, May 13th, 2026, including the Senate's latest failed vote on an Iran war powers resolution. Reuters reported that the Senate blocked the resolution in a 50-49 vote, with Republican Senators Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski joining most Democrats in support, while Democrat John Fetterman voted against it. Reuters also reported this was the seventh such failed war powers effort this year. The Associated Press reported that Murkowski's vote reflected growing unease among some Republicans over President Trump's Iran policy and the question of congressional authorization. This is a conversation about power, responsibility, and the difference between leadership and political camouflage. Listener discretion is advised.
There are some headlines Washington hopes you skip right past. They sound procedural. They sound dry. They sound like one more Senate vote buried under the noise of inflation, work stress, gas prices, grocery bills, and whatever cable news circus is screaming loudest that hour. But today's vote on Iran war powers matters, because underneath all the legal language and party spin is one simple question. Who gets to keep America in a conflict? The president alone, Congress, or both? Now let me be clear right up front. I support President Trump. I voted for strength. I voted for America first. I voted against the machine that mocked working people, opened the border, censored speech, and treated regular Americans like background extras in their global management project. But supporting Trump does not mean Congress gets to become decorative furniture. It does not mean the Constitution goes into storage. And it does not mean war powers become a team sport issue where you only care about limits when the other party controls the White House. Because war is different. War is not a press conference. War is not a rally line. War is not some campaign slogan you slap on a bumper sticker. War has a human cost, a financial cost, a moral cost, and a constitutional cost. And while Washington loves words like limited operations, regional stability, strategic deterrence, and ongoing authority, American families know what happens when the bill comes due. Gas moves, food moves, shipping moves, budgets move, service members move, and somehow regular people always find out last and pay first. Today, the Senate blocked another attempt to limit President Trump's military authority involving Iran. Reuters reported the resolution failed 50-49, with 3 Republicans joining most Democrats in support, and John Fetterman voting with Republicans against it. That is not a blowout. That is not some meaningless symbolic vote. That is close. And when a war powers vote gets that close, it tells you the pressure is building. So, tonight, no panel, no escape hatch. Just me, the mic, and the question Washington keeps trying to avoid. If this conflict is necessary, why won't Congress vote like it? All right, so let's get into it without turning this into a law school seminar, because that is where Washington likes to hide. The issue tonight is not whether Iran is dangerous. Of course Iran is dangerous. The regime has spent decades threatening America, threatening Israel, using proxies, spreading chaos, and playing games across the region. Nobody serious should pretend Iran is some misunderstood neighborhood watch committee with bad public relations. But acknowledging the threat does not erase the Constitution. It does not erase Congress. It does not erase the American people's right to know what we are doing, why we are doing it, how long this is supposed to last, and what victory is supposed to look like. That is where this Senate vote matters. Reuters reported the Senate blocked the latest Iran War Powers Resolution 50-49, with Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski joining most Democrats, while John Fetterman voted against the measure. The Associated Press reported that Murkowski, joining Paul and Collins, showed growing Republican unease, even though the resolution still failed. And honestly, that is the real story. Not that Democrats tried to limit Trump. That part is predictable. Not that Republican leadership backed Trump. That part is predictable too. The real story is that this is no longer some lonely objection from the corner. The vote is tightening. The pressure is showing. The cracks are there. And here is where conservatives have to be honest. Being pro-Trump does not require being pro-blank check. You can believe Trump is stronger than the Democrats. You can believe weakness invites danger. You can believe Iran needs to feel consequences. You can believe America has to project strength in a world where bad actors are always watching. I believe that. But none of that means Congress gets to hide behind the president. None of that means lawmakers get to give patriotic speeches, pose with troops, slap on flag pins, and then vanish when it is time to actually vote on the hard stuff. Congress loves being near power. They love commenting on power. They love fundraising off power. They love going on television and saying they support the troops, support strength, support deterrence, support our allies, support accountability, support oversight, and support whatever phrase polls best with the audience they are talking to that day. But when the question becomes, will you put your name on continued military action, suddenly they start speaking fluent lawyer. Suddenly the War Powers Resolution becomes complicated. Suddenly everybody needs more briefings, more process, more nuance, more room to maneuver. Funny how courage always needs a calendar invite in Washington. Now, to be fair, the White House argument is not stupid. The president is commander-in-chief. There are moments when speed matters. There are moments when America cannot wait for Congress to finish grandstanding, leaking, fundraising, and pretending C-SPAN is a battlefield. If Americans are attacked, the president has to respond. If our forces are in danger, the president has to act. And if our enemies think America is too divided to defend itself, that can invite even more danger. That is a real argument, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But there is a difference between immediate defense and prolonged involvement. There is a difference between responding to a threat and drifting into an open-ended conflict. There is a difference between strength and autopilot. And that is the line the American people deserve to see clearly. What is the mission? Is it deterrence? Is it containment? Is it protecting shipping lanes? Is it defending allies? Is it stopping nuclear escalation? Is it punishing attacks on American forces? Is it all of the above? Fine, but say that. Say it plainly, because trust us is not a strategy. We have the authority is not a strategy. And don't ask questions or you hate America is definitely not a strategy. We have seen that movie before. We have watched politicians turn complicated foreign policy into bumper stickers. We have watched them sell certainty when they had assumptions. We have watched them use patriotism like duct tape over bad planning. And years later, when the cost came due, everybody acted shocked that the receipt was longer than the speech. That is why asking questions now is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is what a serious country does before the bill gets too big to question. And that bill is not abstract. That was the whole point of yesterday's episode. The war may happen overseas, but the bill lands here. It lands in fuel prices. It lands in supply chains. It lands in the defense budget. It lands in military homes where families wait for phone calls and watch the news differently than everyone else. It lands on veterans who know exactly what it feels like when Washington discovers patriotism during deployment season and forgets it during treatment season. It lands on working families who are told there is no money for roads, no money for borders, no money for veterans, no money for disaster relief, no money for anything practical, but somehow, when foreign policy gets hot, the printer always works. And before somebody twists this is not about blaming the troops. The troops do not write the strategy. The troops do not draft the legal memo. The troops do not sit in Congress avoiding hard votes. They go where they are sent, and they do the job better than the people sending them deserve. That is exactly why this matters. Supporting the troops should mean demanding lawful authority, clear missions, honest timelines, and political leaders brave enough to attach their own names to the decisions. What worries me most is that Washington has normalized gray zone war. Not officially war, but not peace. Not fully authorized, but somehow ongoing. Not dramatic enough to dominate every dinner table, but serious enough that people in uniform carry the risk. That gray zone is where accountability goes to die. It is where presidents expand power, Congress avoids responsibility, and voters are told they are either too uninformed to understand or too unpatriotic to question. And I reject that completely. The American people are not children. We can understand that Iran is dangerous and still ask whether the mission is lawful. We can support President Trump and still demand Congress do its job. We can back our military and still refuse to let politicians turn them into blank check foreign policy tools. Those are not contradictions. That is citizenship. So here's where I land tonight. I want America strong. I want Iran contained. I want our enemies to know that if they hit Americans, there will be consequences. I want our allies to know we are not weak. But I also want Congress to stop hiding behind procedural fog. I want senators to stop giving speeches they are not willing to back up with votes. I want the White House to define the mission in words normal Americans can understand. And I want the media to stop treating war powers like just another partisan scoreboard. If this conflict is necessary, authorize it. If it is not necessary, end it. If it is limited, define the limits. If the mission changed, explain how. If the administration believes the war powers clock does not apply, make that argument openly and let Congress answer openly. But stop asking the American people to accept permanent uncertainty as the price of strength. Strength without accountability is not conservative. Strength without a plan is not leadership. Strength without constitutional guardrails is exactly the kind of government overreach we claim to oppose. And if America first means anything, it has to mean the American people come first in the decision-making process, not last in the briefing and first in the billing line. That is the fight underneath the fight. This is not just about Iran. This is not just about Trump. This is not just about one Senate vote. This is about whether power still has to answer to the people. Because once Washington learns it can keep the country in conflict without clear authorization, clear language, and clear responsibility, it will never unlearn that lesson on its own.
Before we move into final thoughts, let me take a quick second to say this plainly. Data and Dissonance is still standing, but we are rebuilding lean right now. The merch store is temporarily closed because funding got tight, and that is just real life. This show has always been built out of pocket, late at night, around work, bills, family, stress, and the stubborn belief that regular Americans still need a place where the conversation is honest, sharp, serious when it has to be, and funny when the world gets too ridiculous not to laugh. So while the store is down, the best way to support the show right now is simple. Listen, follow, share, comment, and help get the word out. And if you know a small business, a local brand, a veteran-owned company, a patriotic shop, a coffee company, a gear company, an author, a musician, or anybody who wants to reach an audience that actually thinks, laughs, works, argues, and cares about the country, send them our way. Data and Dissonance is actively looking for sponsors. You can also support the larger work by checking out the Caleb Rourke Thriller series, the music, the podcast links, and everything connected to this world we are building. All the links are in the description. Every listen helps, every share helps, every comment helps. And if you are still here, still listening, and still riding with us while we rebuild this thing leaner, tighter, and stronger, thank you. Seriously, you are the reason the mic is still on.
Here is what I keep coming back to tonight. A country can be strong and still ask questions. Somewhere along the way, Washington trained people to believe those two ideas are opposites. They are not. Weakness is not asking for authorization. Weakness is not demanding a defined mission. Weakness is not telling Congress to put its name on the decision. Real weakness is letting powerful people operate in fog because everyone is too afraid of being called disloyal to ask what the plan is. And I say that as someone who wants America to win. I do not want Iran pushing us around. I do not want our enemies testing us. I do not want China, Russia, Iran, or any other bad actor looking at this country and thinking we are too divided or too exhausted to respond. But I also do not want America stumbling into another open-ended conflict where the mission changes every few weeks, the cost keeps climbing, and the people who made the decisions suddenly cannot remember who was responsible. Supporting the troops means more than cheering when they deploy and forgetting them when they come home. It means demanding that the mission is lawful before they are sent, clear while they are serving, and accountable when politicians start rewriting history. It means Congress does not get to clap during military speeches and then vanish when it is time to authorize military action. And it means the president, even one you support, should not be asked to carry the entire constitutional burden alone while lawmakers hide behind him. So tonight, my message is simple. If this conflict with Iran is necessary, make the case. If continued operations are vital to American security, explain the mission. If Congress supports it, vote for it. If Congress opposes it, say so and own that too. But stop treating the American people like we are too stupid to handle the truth. We can handle hard truths. What we are tired of is soft lies. America does not need weaker leadership. It needs clearer leadership. It needs leaders who understand that strength is not just measured by missiles, ships, sanctions, and speeches. Strength is also measured by honesty, restraint, constitutional discipline, and the courage to tell the people, this is what we are doing, this is why we are doing it, this is what it costs, and this is how we know when it is done. This has been Data and Dissonance. I'm Artie. Thank you for listening, thank you for sharing, and thank you for helping keep independent voices alive when everything around us seems designed to drown them out. Remember to speak truth, stir thought.
This episode of Data and Dissonance is brought to you by the creative world of Artie John Roy, where political tension, thriller storytelling, music, and independent commentary all collide. If you like stories where power has secrets, governments have shadows, and one man gets pulled into a fight much bigger than himself, check out the Caleb Rourke thriller series, including The Covenant Protocol and Black Echo Rising, available now on Amazon. You can also support Artie's music, including rock, country, patriotic, and faith-driven songs connected to the same working-class fire behind this show. The books, the music, the podcast, and all support links are listed in the episode description. Thank you for listening to Data and Dissonance. Independent, unfiltered, and still standing.